Let's see. So, was the bombing of Dresden justified in World War II? Now, let's talk about the backstory, give you guys a little update of why that happened, and talk about the situation before the bombing. So, this is what, 1945. And let's go back. Actually, let's not go start from 1939. Let's go to 1940. Let's take a little flashback to 1940. So in 1940, there was a Battle of Britain, Battle of Britain. Yeah, the Germans were trying to they were trying to control the airspace above the English Channel and above Britain, so that they could launch Operation Sea Lion. That failed. They lost, and then they started. Then they switched over instead of attacking strategic targets like airfields during the Battle of Britain. They switched over to strategic bombing because one single bomber from the Luftwaffe, he accidentally dropped a bomb on London. And he's the reason that not really. I mean, it probably would have been a chain event anyway. They probably would have eventually bombed them anyways, and the blitz would have happened regardless. But in our real timeline, he was the reason that who was the head of the Luftwaffe? Goering. He was the one that ordered the Luftwaffe to bomb London and Coventry and all these other places because the Luftwaffe attacked Berlin as a retaliation because the RAF attacked Berlin as retaliation because of the Luftwaffe attacking London during the Blitz. Not during the Blitz, but the lone bomber plane guy with the Luftwaffe that bombed London. And then we had a reverberation. The Blitz happened. And during the Blitz, like thousands, like almost 40,000 people died during the Blitz. And thousands of Luftwaffe bombers were hitting the Britain daily and shit during. And, during that time, people were really mad and angry. The civilians, they wanted revenge for the Blitz. And then reverberation. The war is going badly for the Nazis, and the Germans are losing, and the Nazis are losing, and it's all spiraling downwards. They're losing. It's 1945. The situation's really grim. The Soviets are in the Eastern Front. They're knocking on the door. They've already overrun the Baltic states, and they're like literally on the eastern. They're literally on the border with Germany. They've already taken control of Poland. I think it was the Vistula offensive. They covered they already went past the river Vistula, and the reason why the Allies, they had a conference during Yalta. Stalin he wanted a conference in Yalta in the Crimea. He did that because he wanted to talk to them about the fact that he felt like the Soviets were being forced to take the brunt of the casualties fighting the Nazis, which was true. The Russians did do most of the fighting, and they were. I mean, there's a phrase that's going around that the Russians that the war was won with Russian blood and American money, and that's reality. That's just how it was. So let's talk about the bombing in Dresden. The reason why, let's talk about the reason why it was bombed. The reason why Dresden was bombed, and a lot of people don't know this, they think that it wasn't a strategic situation. It was. It was a major rail hub for the Nazis to transport the Nazi troops from Dresden to the Eastern Front to fight the Soviets. Now, obviously, you got to go through the cities to bring your troops to the front line, and it was a major rail hub center. There was a major factories. It was a big, it was a strategic target. It's not like, but given that it was a strategic target, the other side of the argument is that they didn't just want to attack the strategic targets purely. They wanted to attack the civilians, and they wanted to kill as many civilians as possible so that there would be a public outcry, and then the Germans would surrender, right? That was the logic going into that battle. Now, Winston Churchill, he was kind of like he was kind of hesitant at first, but he gave the go-ahead for Bomber Command, which was headed by Sir Arthur Harris. He he wanted revenge also for the Blitz, and he wanted the war to be won with just Bomber Command. And you can't really win a war with just bombing alone. I mean, that's definitely not gonna happen. Because once the bombing ends, the people just come out and continue with their day, right? Okay, so they bombed. So the RAF, Bomber Command, and the USAAF, the Americans, they bombed the shit out of Dresden. 3 different waves. They bombed the shit out of them. Destroyed almost the entire city center. They killed around 25,000 civilians. And then after the war, after the bombing, Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda for the Nazis, he manufactured a figure of 250,000 people were killed during the bombing of Dresden, which was all bullshit, In war, and you have total war, anything goes. Anything goes. There's no rules with total war. The only rule that wasn't implemented during World War II was gas. They didn't use gas because they knew they were going to retaliate. The British were going to retaliate. So both sides kind of had it's mutually assured destruction. Okay, let's just get rid of it. Hitler didn't want it because he had a bad experience with mustard gas during World War One, which is why he forbade the use of gas in warfare. But moving on, you kind of have to balance your sympathy for the German civilians that died during the bombing of Dresden with the bombing of the Blitz, and then you got to balance that with the concentration camps. Then you got to balance that with the wholesale destruction of the Jews that the Nazis were doing during World War II. And it's hard to feel sympathy for the Germans, though. Like, it's really hard because what were they doing in Germany? They killed millions and millions and millions and millions of people, hundreds of thousands of Soviet POWs. They didn't treat them like human beings. They didn't treat they had such draconian laws. There was a time, there was a law where Himmler would fucking kill your entire family if you deserted from your post as an officer during World War II, during the end. And now let's move on to the next part. Was it morally justified for the Allies to bomb Dresden, and was it okay for them to do that? And was it all right? Well, nobody is saying that it was justified. You got to look at the context of what happened at the time. Like, at the time, there's warfare. The Nazis are eradicating and killing an entire race of people, genocidal maniacs. They're killing people left and right, and they're killing millions of Jews and killing all these other people. They're killing gypsies. They're killing disabled people. They kidnap people from the Eastern Front. They're killing millions of Soviet POWs. They're just doing a lot of things, and that needs to be. We needed to put a stop to this stuff that they're doing. This horrific things that the Nazis are doing. We have to put a stop to it. So honestly, I think it was morally justified because there was a strategic goal in mind. Like, we had to destroy their rail hubs. We had to prevent the movement of the German troops to the Eastern Front. We had to help the Soviets because they were our allies, and we have to impede the German troop movements to the Eastern Front. And that goal was successful. But what I don't like is how the media portrayed Sir Arthur Harris, as the villain. Because before the before the bombing attack, why is he looked at as the villain? Because I watched the documentary, and apparently he wasn't even given a pardon but he wasn't even put into the memorial until at least 30 years later. And even the pilots that did the missions were not even remembered. which is crazy. Now, obviously, the 25,000 people that died, like, that's wrong. I mean, I don't think they should have been killed, but we had to put a stop to Germany, and they wanted total war, and they had to be stopped, and we had to use any means necessary. But for the Nazis to morally question what the Allies were doing, that that's not that's really not that doesn't. I'm kind of trying to understand how can you even morally question someone else when you're morally bankrupt, less than bankrupt. You have minus in your bank account. You're morally bankrupt, and you're trying to argue with someone else. Like, they killed 25,000 people. You killed 6 million Jews. Maybe not 6 million, but you killed 6 million, and then you killed all these other people. You killed gypsies. You killed handicapped people. You're racist. You kill everybody that doesn't agree with your way of life, and you think that people, yeah, whatever. Yeah, but that's my little rant on the Dresden firestorm. I think it was justified. I think they deserved it, but that's just my opinion, guys. Bye.